Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's update regarding the Alberta wildfires. We will begin with an update from Bree Hutchinson from the Alberta Emergency Management Agency and Christie Tucker from Alberta Wildfire, and then we'll take your questions. Over to you, Bree.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. Though there has been some positive news in terms of rain, the wildfire situation remains serious, and it's important for all Albertans to remain vigilant, especially those who live in areas that remain under evacuation alert. Alberta is starting to see some cooler temperatures and scattered precipitation, helping to provide some relief to firefighters. We are hoping the weather continues to assist in the fight against these wildfires. Alberta continues to be under a provincial state of emergency, and the Provincial Emergency Coordination Centre remains at a level 4. There are currently 22 states of local emergency, 5 band council resolutions, and an estimated 10,655 Albertans evacuated at this time. There are 11 reception centres open for affected areas, and the total number of evacuation orders now stands at 15. As we continue working to get the fire danger under control, I want to thank those who have been evacuated for their continued patience and understanding. We're working hard to make sure conditions are safe for evacuees to return home. It's also critical people continue to avoid any activities that might start new fires or make the current situation worse. We know Albertans who have been evacuated are eager to return home, and rumors may be swirling, but it's very important to listen to instructions from local officials and wait for their official word. So please stay informed by paying attention to trusted and verified information sources. Find news sources and authority figures you know are reliable. Follow your local authority social media, download the Alberta Emergency Alert app, and follow the advice and information provided. Telephone town halls for evacuees are continuing this week and will be held tonight, Thursday, and Saturday evening at 7 p.m. The town halls bring together wildfire and emergency management leaders and officials from across government to answer your questions. To learn more about these calls or to listen online, visit alberta.ca/emergency. I would also like to take this opportunity to remind those on evacuation alert to make sure you are prepared to leave your home quickly. A few simple actions, like gathering medications and fueling up vehicles, can make evacuation process easier. There is a detailed list on alberta.ca/beprepared that outlines all the steps Albertans should take to be prepared in case of evacuation. Also, I would like to remind all evacuated Albertans to register at their nearest reception centre or online at emergencyregistration.alberta.ca. Registering helps ensure you receive the latest updates and information as quickly as possible. It's also essential for registering for emergency financial assistance. For everyone who is evacuated, please know that supports are available. We have processed more than 14,200 applications and sent out more than $25 million in e-transfers and debit cards to evacuees. A reminder that debit cards are available for evacuees who are unable to receive an e-transfer at 15 Alberta Supports locations, which all have extended hours, and at the Calgary Evacuation Centre. Those with questions on these supports can visit alberta.ca/emergency or call 310-4455. Lastly, I want to remind Albertans to stay inside when the air quality index is poor. Alberta continues to experience very poor air quality in many areas of the province, with an air quality index of 10+ in some communities. This means that strenuous activities outdoors should be avoided and ideally rescheduled until the air quality improves. Alberta Health Services has excellent information at albertahealthservices.ca regarding air quality information and how to best protect one's health. And anyone who needs to travel, whether because of evacuations or for other reasons, should check 511 for information on road conditions and closures, and be cautious in areas where visibility is poor. Please stay safe and continue to follow updates on the wildfire situation across the province, and do your part to reduce fire risk. Pay attention to fire bans and reduce any activities that could unintentionally start wildfires, such as the use of off-highway vehicles. Your efforts in following directions from local officials and first responders have been key to our ability to respond to this wildfire emergency. I will now invite Christie to provide an update on behalf of Alberta Wildfire.
Thank you, Bree. There are 71 wildfires in the forest protection area of Alberta. 20 of those are out of control. So far this year, we've responded to 520 wildfires, burning more than 1,017,000 hectares. Today, we've seen a continuation of the showers that started in the province yesterday and the lower fire behavior that resulted from that. Many of the major wildfires burning received some rain, which means these are good days for firefighters to make real progress on containing these fires. Due to the hard work of firefighters, along with the weather, we have been able to reclassify the Sturgeon Lake complex near Sturgeon Lake Cree Nation and Valleyview from out of control to being held. That means that the fire is not expected to grow beyond the established boundaries under the current conditions. There are 1,123 firefighters from across Canada and the United States assisting nearly 1,700 from Alberta Wildfire on these fires. We're working closely with the municipal fire departments who are also protecting their own communities. Even though we have made headway on many wildfires on the landscape, we know that the season is far from over. We need to be prepared. We're continuing to bring in assistance from outside the province, including a team from Parks Canada arriving today and 96 firefighters from the US arriving tomorrow. Towards the end of the week, we're expecting additional help from New Zealand and Australia. We will continue to prioritize those wildfires where communities are still at risk, and we'll focus our resources to those areas that are still out there waiting for rain. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Christie. There's no reporters in the room, so we'll go to the phone lines first. Just a reminder for anyone on the line to press *1 to hop into the queue. Operator, can you please put through the first caller?
Yes, first caller is Katarina Schultz, CBC.
Hi, I'm just wondering if wildfire modeling has been used for these fires and if it's played a role in the firefighting efforts.
We use a variety of tools as far as strategies to fight fires and looking at the fire situation across the entire province. We have fire behavior experts who are constantly working with a variety of tools at their disposal, including modeling as well as expectations on weather and exactly what the fuel conditions are in various parts of the province, because these all have a large influence on how a fire behaves. So yes, certainly there are a lot of tools that people are working with in order to be able to predict what a wildfire will do as much as it's possible with the information that's available, and how to prepare ourselves appropriately.
Do you have a follow-up question?
Yeah, and then just in terms of particularly the modeling and the satellites, do these tools help limit destruction in any way?
If we were able to, certainly when you are dealing with the elements, there are always things that cannot be predicted exactly how they're going to play out. We have a lot of experts who have a great deal of knowledge and experience working on modeling, and we use all of that knowledge and experience to the full extent. But certainly there are some times when things move very quickly, when you have sudden wind changes, when you have gusting winds that can be less predictable. And we can prepare as much as possible with the information that's available to us, and we do use that information to position resources where we expect we're going to need them. When we know that the wind is going to change, we have to take that into account with the way we fight fires. And certainly we do use that extensively just as part of our regular firefighting duties across the province.
All right, operator, could you please put through the next caller?
Robert Tuttle, Bloomberg.
Yes, hi, good evening. First question is, you'd mentioned people, help from Australia and New Zealand. Do you mean firefighters or do you mean resources? If it's firefighters, how many are coming?
I don't have the exact number that are coming. I know we are expecting several groups. They are firefighters coming from both New Zealand and Australia. We have used this agreement that we have in place with New Zealand and Australia in the past. We've sent firefighters over to Australia when they had a particularly destructive wildfire season. And this is an agreement that we use on occasion, as we do with agreements, mutual agreement, aid agreements that we have in place with other agencies across Canada and the United States. We have individual agreements with other countries as well. And the reason we do a lot of work on establishing these agreements is that we know that we have similar training, similar way to communicate, and they will fight fire to the standards that we expect here in Alberta. So it is something that we have used before in the past, and it's good to have a resource there that's available to us with the difference in our seasons between the Southern Hemisphere and the Northern Hemisphere.
Do you have a follow-up question, Robert?
Yes. I think earlier it did mention that these fires could be going on for months and months. Does that mean that Albertans should expect very poor air quality throughout the summer? I mean, is that something we're going to see, like off and on, bad air? Or will you be able to bring these enough under control that won't be the problem?
It generally is only in extremely active situations that you will see enough smoke that the majority of the province will notice smoke in the air, as we saw this weekend. We have a number of very large-scale wildfires, and together the number burning has produced smoke that people have certainly affected people in the province over the last weekend. As fire behavior decreases, so does the smoke, but we often see fire smoke in the air that can travel from miles and miles away. Looking at a website like firesmoke.ca will tell people exactly where the smoke in the air is coming from, and that's a good tool to help prepare people for where exactly, knowing what the fire situation is and where that smoke is coming from. But no, certainly with less active fires, once we are able to bring more of the wildfires to a being held status or under control eventually, you will see less fire behavior and there should be less smoke.
Thanks. Operator, could you please put through the next caller?
Hi, everyone. I have a question on the numbers. So you mentioned 1,017,000 hectares burned this year. Is that an all-time record?
That's certainly the most we've seen in springtime in Alberta on record. We do have one larger number for the entire fire season, and fire season ends at the end of October. So for this time of year, yes, this is an extraordinary year. We have not seen numbers like this in Alberta on record, and it is something that is certainly illustrating what we've been saying about the unusual nature of this fire season.
Do you have a follow-up?
Yeah. So you said there was one other season the whole year that's been worse. Can you tell me which one it was? And just to clarify, can you the number of hectares you mentioned, is that just inside the forest protection area? Like, does it include the national parks?
The numbers on our record are the forest protection area of Alberta. But I would like to say that the numbers can change. Certainly, many of the aircraft in the forest areas have not been able to fly as frequently as they would normally over the past weekend because of smoke. And flying over a fire helps firefighters give an accurate assessment of the size. So the size number may fluctuate. Also at the end of the year when they're able to get a really accurate read of a fire perimeter and the part inside the perimeter that's unburned, you may see the size adjusted then as well. But the other year in question that you asked about was, I believe, 1984, when the record was 1.3 million hectares that was burned over an entire fire season.
All right, operator, could you please put through the next caller?
Alana Smith, Global Mail.
Oh, hi, thanks for taking my question. My question is also for Christie. Following up on my colleagues, I know you're saying this is obviously a record-breaking spring wildfire season with over 1 million hectares burned. Can you just put that into context of past fire seasons for me? And then obviously, I know you're talking about the spring season, but the overall season, how is this kind of tracking compared to the others?
Yeah, well, I remember looking at the numbers a few days ago, and I was looking at where we were at this time last year. And you can see these numbers on our website. If you go to the wildfire status page, those are available on the website. So it may have been updated slightly since a few days ago since I looked, but we had been at 450,000 hectares. No, just 450 hectares total by this time, and we are now just passing a million. So certainly a significant difference over last year. The average is more than that because it takes in some larger fire seasons that we've had. But looking back at some of the total season numbers, the last highest we have on recent record was 2019, which was 883,000, and that was a significant wildfire year. You may remember the Chuckay Creek wildfire near a high-level area. That was a significant fire, and a number of other large complexes. But still, we have surpassed that total from 2019 for the entire season already.
Do you have a follow-up question, Elena?
I do, thanks. I just wanted to talk a little bit earlier. You were saying, there's been some lower fire behavior that's resulted from, rain we've had these past few days, bit cooler temperatures. Can you just take me through kind of the efforts over the weekend and kind of what the focus was from firefighters and how they were able to curb some of those really serious fires like Sturgeon Lake?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, one of the downsides of the smoke was that it was less possible for us to fly over a number of the wildfires, but we were able to make significant progress fighting fires on the ground. And so what that means is building fire guards around to protect communities, and that is using heavy equipment or bulldozers to clear vegetation that would be used by a fire to draw it closer to a community. And we reinforce those fire guards that we are building by doing a various number of things, such as burning off in a very controlled way some of the additional smaller fuels that could be used. So we're widening that fire break to make it harder for the fire, a longer place for it to reach if it was going to go towards the community. And they've been working with municipal firefighters, and they do work on installing sprinklers in areas where they're afraid that the fire could come close to a community. So being able to work in tandem with all of the people who are fighting fire and use that sort of collective effort to help create stronger breaks for the fire, and to go in there and do some of the work behind the head of the fire. I've talked about mopping up and the work that's involved, and that's some of the work that our fire tech crews and military assistants are helping us with, and that's going through behind the head of the fire and turning over hot spots, making sure that those are out. And that's all incredibly important work as far as reinforcing guards around communities and putting the fire outs eventually.
All right, operator, could you please put through the next caller?
Jeremy Nelson, CGT.
Hi there. Just a couple of questions for you about the fire up by Fox Creek. I know that one is like particularly large, and so despite the rain this weekend, I'm wondering what sort of challenges come with fighting such an enormous just section of land that's burning.
Large-scale fires do present a large logistical challenge. I mean, certainly you have a lot of area to cover. You would have priority areas, which are, of course, the areas that show the most potential for reaching a community, or we do have firefighters that, of course, focus on creating fire breaks and as much as they can skirting around the outside of a fire of that size. But it is a priority fire. The Fox Creek fire is still technically classified as out of control, but I know they have been working very hard on building dozer guards, and they're continuing what I've been talking about is small-scale burnout operations, which again is just removing some of the fuel and helping to reinforce that guard near the community. So it is a large operation, and of course we've already seen how roads can be affected and how we need to work with other agencies within the government of Alberta as well as the municipality as well. And there's a lot of work going on. We do have the military assisting on that fire as well, and it does help to have a significant number of people who are able to work on that mop-up. When you have a large-scale fire, to have the possibility of 100 troops working on that is certainly assistance to the firefighters who are able to fight on other priority areas of the fire.
Do you have a follow-up question?
Yeah, and just, you say there's about 10,000 or so people still evacuated from their homes here. I understand it's about 1,800, 2,000 folks from Fox Creek that are evacuated, mostly in Whitecourt. And so fair to say, I guess, maybe that's sort of one of the larger groups that are still evacuated from their homes. So I'm just wondering, like, they're obviously, they've been out for a long time. They're seeing this rain, this cooler weekend. I guess they're probably getting pretty antsy to get back home. I guess what's the message to folks who are still, despite the better weather, still out of their homes?
Yeah, it's easy to understand people's frustration. It does feel like some of these fires have been going for a long time, particularly for those who have been displaced from their home. So it's certainly understandable that people are antsy and want to get back home. But fighting fire is not something that will change overnight, particularly when you're dealing with a large-scale fire like this one. What we can do is fight the fire to the best of our ability, work at bringing that fire to a status where the community itself feels that they can advise residents that it's safe to go home, and we give them the best information we possibly can to be able to make that decision safely.
All right, and that concludes today's media availability. Please note a media situation report will be distributed later today, and we'll be back at 3 p.m. tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.